Hey guys, it's Ping here at Fox Raceway today with a really fun project from the boys over at Twisted Development. I'm with Jamie Ellis, owner, proprietor, etc.
One of the staff members.
This bike has a really cool story. Tell us a little bit about where the engine came from, which is kind of what we focused on today. This is a 270 big bore race engine.
Correct. Yep.
So we'll get some background on that, how it fit in with the chassis, and just tell me how this thing came to be.
Okay, so in 2020, the muck-off Honda, or Pinwright Honda at the time, they came over from Australia. The owner, Yariv Konsky, personal friend of mine. And so we were doing the engines and, you know, shipping stuff from Australia back and forth. It was just kind of a lot going on. And so we built this bike as just a dyno bike. So this thing has lived, I can't tell you how many race engines have been in and out of it, just beating the, dyno. That's it. And so this thing had been laying around. Never seen the track. Today was the first day it's actually been on the track. So it was just kind of a cool project that we had one race motor left over from the program that was a supercross motor, and it had all the, Crankworks crank with the good rod, with the balance, like polished transmission, like everything's done to it, and it lived its whole life as a supercross engine. So a lot of times when we do these media projects, we don't get to start with like a supercross engine that has all of the bells and whistles. We normally start from a stock engine, and we spend the appropriate amount of money to figure out how to make it fast, and then we come out and do these tests. So this one we kind of walk backwards. So in 21, when this bike was it's in its prime, we didn't have the electric water pump, we didn't have a couple of features that have kind of came out since. So we thought, man, let's put all of the stuff into this thing that makes a current modern day bike cool, and still has the KTM throttle body that's bored and different intake system, like all kinds of cool stuff in this bike, stuff I wouldn't have shared in 21 that we were doing. Yeah. But now that it's kind of gone, it's just a really cool situation of a bike that existed and is going to live another life now.
Yeah. So why the idea to drop a 270 kit in it also?
It was already one of those things where the bike was awesome, right? But there's no replacement for displacement. You probably heard that before. So the 270 kit just kind of opened up, like we could open the chamber more, we could do some different stuff with the piston. And so whenever I say this is a race 270, so like if there was a production 270 bike, we would approach it as making it a race bike, meaning tightening the clearances, checking the cam timing, moving stuff around, doing all that stuff. So we actually did all of this to this engine. It's the first time us as Twisted Development, we've been able to actually attack a race engine as a 270 project. So I really thought you guys would like it, and I was excited. After we dynoed it, I was like giggly about bringing it out today. It sounds like an absolute weapon.
Yeah, and I've been hearing you guys talk about it and what it sounds like and the numbers on the dyno, and we were waiting on a couple of parts to get this thing finished. It was a long time coming to get out here today. So I'm really excited about it. The chassis, like you said, was just a dyno chassis, had never been done. What else on this engine is cool? Electric water pump, you said. Anything else that kind of wouldn't have been, you wouldn't even have talked about? Like you mentioned, kind of the KTM throttle body and some of that other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, we hand port all of our heads to get going. We do the dyno work, we port them, dyno work, port them, and then after that stage, we want to CNC port them so they're repetitive, and it's a lot less grinding and time involved in that, and they're the same every time. So we use a different material on the valve seat, which work hardens over time, so it's really nice. Has a cooling feature as well to that, and the intake guides, and so it's just a race motor. It's all of the proprietary stuff we do, all wrapped up into one in a bundle of joy and fun, as I'm sure you experienced today.
And then what's the plan for this bike? Is this going to be yours? Are you going to sell it?
So right now I have mixed emotions, because I got myself into a situation when we built a couple cool YZ300s that, like, I went into the office and I ordered a bike. So this is close to the same, but I don't have that quite Yamaha YZ250 two-stroke attachment to the Honda. So I might sell it. I mean, if anybody's interested, maybe hit us up. I don't know what we're gonna do to it. It might live a life in Florida when I ride it, when I go there. I don't know what we're doing. It's just kind of loosely wrapped. It was just fun. It's just like, it's a 2021 motorcycle. So I don't know what kind of money I would get for it. So it's just kind of like a weird balance of, yeah, it's a pocket of its own, which is definitely cool.
Well, Twisted Development, if you're not familiar, one of the very few people that really understands how to work on an engine, ECUs, kind of everything that makes a race bike go. So kudos to you guys, man. You're absolutely killing it. I do want to thank some of the other people that made this project possible. Talent over to Churbis got us the plastic. The guys at SKDA, Sam and the boys,
Nailed it.
just crushed this.
You're either gonna hate it or love it.
Yeah, it's just
There's no
so
in between.
different.
Yeah.
I just love their design and their style.
Yeah, they're fresh.
FMF exhaust system on this, Dunlop tires, ODI grips and bars, and that's really it, right? Some Nihilo concept stuff. We got the grip donuts, frame tape, some little odds and ends on the wheels and things like that. Again, the focus was really just the engine. The suspension's bone stock. We weren't worried about all that stuff. Pro X chain and sprocket, but that's really it. It was really, let's go focus on this engine. So
Matching with some good Dunlop tires. And
that's it. Fuel,
Yeah.
what are you running for fuel?
So VP Pro 6 in
Okay.
this thing. Yeah, it since I don't know if I'm keeping it or not, like we like VP Pro 6 because that is the pinnacle of a good race fuel for Supercross, Motocross, Amateur Nationals. And then there's a step down from that cost-wise called T4. And those two fuels, in my opinion, you can blend them around, you can do whatever you want, and you can save some money by running T4. So we kind of set this bike up that way. That way, if it does end up with a new home, we're thoughtful about where it's going.
Sure. And you said that it's built in such a way that the service intervals aren't ridiculous. 20 hours at least before you check.
Yep. We check all the piston clearances, all the head clearances, everything, and we set this thing up on the safer side, not knowing what type of life it would live after today.
Gotcha. So if you guys are interested, hit them up on Instagram, or what's the email over there?
Accounting@td-racing.com.
Ooh, it could be yours.
That could be. You guys sweet talked me into selling it first.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to bring in our new test rider here at Whiskey Throttle Media, Jason Fichera. We rode this thing all day today. We got some feedback for you. All right, guys, we're with Jason Fichera, our newest test rider here at Whiskey Throttle Media. Thanks for coming out and jumping on this thing with me. For me, it's important to bring in some other guys to get some different feedback. And I'm just getting old. I need some young blood in here.
Thank you. Yeah, happy to be out here. This thing was a blast.
So you race some nationals, you do some off-road stuff. You're pretty versatile and well-versed in moto and off-road. But you typically race pretty stock bikes. And I was excited for you to get on this thing because I know what Jamie builds. And he was excited about this. And when he's excited about something, it's usually going to be pretty great. So tell me your thoughts on this thing.
Yeah, no doubt he did a great job building this motor. Yeah, I usually ride pretty stock bikes. I rode a stock YZ250F at the Polo National. And honestly, the first time I even opened this thing up past maybe half throttle, I started giggling. The thing was so fast, it was unreal.
So the pull, describe it versus kind of a stock 250, where you feel like it's really strong, and if there's any weaknesses. Give me your breakdown of the engine.
There was honestly no weaknesses. Right off the bottom, the thing felt so torquey. Even compared to a Yamaha, which is generally the most torquey 250, and especially compared to this bike in stock trim, which is super laggy on the bottom end, this thing with the motor built like this, right off the crack of the throttle, the thing was so fast. And I honestly didn't even feel the need to shift. I was kind of just shifting for fun because the thing would just rev out forever.
And that's something with older big bores, a lot of times you'd lose that over rev. But when you have somebody that really knows what they're doing, they can map it right and sort of build the entire engine, you don't lose that anymore. I mean, this thing, like you said, we told him we could probably drop 2 teeth on this rear sprocket just because there's so much torque. And Jamie doesn't like to share dyno numbers, but he said it's torque numbers you can't get out of a 250 and horsepower that's up there with really good race bikes. So, I mean, it's an incredible engine. And yeah, to your point, throttle response is right there. Almost too much, right? Like we talked about, a couple teeth down would smooth that transition.
Definitely smooth it out. I was hitting way tighter corners in third gear than I would even think about doing on my stock bike.
But it also revs, right? If there was a couple of straight areas where I'm like, I don't want it, it's not quite long enough to shift, and I just let it kind of rev and it still pulls.
Yeah, it's almost KTM-esque in that way where it just keeps climbing. It honestly doesn't feel like it really has a peak because it'll just keep going faster and faster.
How do you think this would compare to a 450 off of a start? Do you think it's competitive?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way, just, between the weight and how quickly you could grab gears on this thing. I think if you were, I know there's some guys that like race age group classes, 40 plus, 30 plus, looking for their vet weapon. And I mean, this is it, in my opinion. And I can say that as an old guy of 48. This is what I would want to do, because a 450 is just heavier, harder to turn and ride for a long period of time, where this feels like a light 250. But man, when you turn the throttle, it's got some balls.
Yeah, that's for sure. Usually on a start, on a pretty competitive 250, as soon as the 450s click third gear, you're sort of out of the equation. So if the start straight is long enough that the 450s are going to get into third gear for a good amount of time, you can't really count on getting a hole shot. This thing, I wouldn't say that that's the case.
And we're not really going to cover the handling of it. Like I said, it's just stock, but the focus was the engine. And for me, I just found a lot like a 450. I could come out of turns tighter and still get over jumps, no problem. If I needed to be, like you said, you were running third in a lot of turns. There were some pretty tight 180 corners, and I'm like, I'm just gonna see what third does. It would just pull it.
Yeah.
So crazy torque numbers and really broad. Man, I wish we could just go to 270s and get rid of 450s. This would be the jam.
Yeah, I would say so. For anybody who's not limited to 250 cc's, this is, in my opinion, a better bike than a 450 because it's so much easier to ride. It's also way more fun to ride, and opposed to a normal, even a fast 250, it opens up a lot of different line choices that you can take because you're not restricted to where you can get a run out of a corner.
Well, like Jamie said, you can't get these kind of torque numbers out of a 250. There's no replacement for displacement. And that, like you said, it opens up options that you just wouldn't have no matter how good your 250 is, huh?
Right.
I will say this though, in talking to Jamie today about big bore kits, there's a pretty wide spectrum. Just buying something online and dropping it in isn't the same as what this is. There's a lot of love and little parts and time that went into building this whole engine. This is a race engine retrofitted into a 270. So he can build them. It's just not as simple as buying a kit online and dropping it in. So I wanted to clarify that. If you're interested, blow the phones up over at Twisted Development. Those guys will talk you through it. But really, really fun. Best bike you've ever ridden, maybe, motor-wise?
Yeah, I would take this thing exactly how it is right now, stock suspension and everything, and race it at a national for sure.
You get protested probably, but
yeah, I mean, if it was legal, but
Well, lots of fun. Big thank you to coming out and spinning some laps on it. Like I said, I'm stoked to have you on board, and I need some young guys helping me adapt and do the whips and all the things or whatever. And big thank you to Twisted Development for building an incredible bike. Every project we do at Jamie is special. We've done 300 two-strokes and all kinds of four-stroke builds, and this was another one of those that was just a lot of fun. So thanks to the boys at Twisted Development. Awesome time, and we'll see you guys next time.